And the second example set for the melody trigger device in Ableton Live, Max for Live device for Ableton Live, which lets you trigger melodies, chords, and sample sequences. So let's have a look what this example set is made of and what is actually happening here. So we get 3 tracks here again, where we got the drum sounds. Let's put this right, drums. Nice. So let's have a look. We get a few sounds in here. Snare. So some 808 stuff. All the stuff is Ableton stock sounds, and if it's not, I put the sounds in there and consolidated it. So you should be able to just open the set, and if you have set your different plugins I'm using, or the melody trigger obviously, if you have saved this into your user library, it should automatically detect the connection. If not, you just have to drag and drop it in there, which is not too much to ask for. But yeah, just write in the comments if everything's fine, and we find it out. Okay, so we got those drum sounds here, and not all of those drum sounds are being triggered on my SPDSX, but just to show you. And I got an empty pad up here, so because you're gonna have different MIDI note pitch tunings coming from your SPDSX, from your push, or from your electronic drums, you need to adjust the MIDI note pitches, which are coming from here into Ableton Live, so that they will trigger the right note, meaning triggering the right sample. So a really quick and easy way would be to use my Drum Rack Tuner Max for Live device, which will help you to do that. So for example, on this pad here, and I can see it's a C2, I got an input monitor here, I got a C2 coming in, which is triggering nothing because there is no C2, no sample in the C2 slot here in the drum rack we're using, but we got some right symbol here. So what's happening? I need to go to the D#2, which is the slot for the right symbol here, and just gonna press S for sync. And now the device is waiting for my MIDI note to come in, and we'll set the MIDI note right. Okay. I was like surprised because it's not actually a right sound, it's a right sample cut really short, and then with the shaker here as well. So now this pad sending in a C2, but the C2 will get repitched to the D#2, which is then triggering the sample. Of course, I just could have dragged and dropped the sample here. So and if I leave the Drum Rack Tuner out here, you know, C2 is coming in, triggering the right slot. So this is handy as well. But to be honest, later on, you need to be really clear, really strict about the MIDI notes you're sending in and the stuff you're triggering. Because if you combine a lot of sets into one set, and you might have used like different MIDI notes here, you have a lot of chaos created already, and so a device like this could help you, but of course there are other ways to do it. I'm just showing you what's my approach, obviously, because I built this device, I'm using it. Nice one. Okay, so we got those drum sounds. Hoopsa. And I got a kick pedal here again as well, which you can't see that well, but just to let you know, there's a kick pedal sending a C1. So that's the drum sounds, and that's actually it for the drum sounds. Let's have a look on the chords next. So what I did was and this is like quite a usual composing process of mine. I usually play a few chords on my e-piano, which you can not right see, I guess, but it's just here, and just put in some nice chords. So let us have a listen, or let's have a look what I did in those here. Okay, I already bounced those chords into audio files. So my process here was like, because I'm using an instrument or a an instrument here which isn't included in the stock libraries. So I had somehow to create this in a way so that you are actually able to access those files. So I play some chords, record those chords, and then I'm gonna transform those MIDI information into audio information, and then I just have those different chords and cut them up in different pieces. So I have like 4 samples here, which are those different chords. Let's have a listen to those. Nice. Next one. And the third one. I'm screaming because they are quite loud on my headphones. Yeah? So that's one way of dealing with a lot of MIDI information here, because you don't actually need to trigger all the time if you have like some really nice chords. You don't necessarily need to trigger all those notes and find a way to set up all those notes, which actually could be done with my No.2 trigger Mix for Live device. But you just could take those MIDI notes on this track and freeze the whole track and then cut up those chords, cut those nice into nice pieces, and then put them, in this example here, in a drum rack. And now those chords are being triggered one after one. If I'm putting in, you can see this starting at C1 here. So if I'm putting in a C1, a C-sharp 1, a D1 and a D-sharp 1 now, those 4 chords are being triggered. Now, there are only samples here. It's similar to like to drum one-shots, but it's a much longer sample which is being triggered here. And this way you can actually trigger chords. So if you have any questions about that, I do online lessons as well. So if you want to go deeper here, just book a session with me. We have an online group as well, if you don't know already, for Ableton drummers. You can ask questions there as well. And if you need some guidance and developing a concept, book a session with me. I can highly advise that, I guess. Okay, cool. So what I need to do now is I need to triggering those chords. I need a C1, a C-sharp 1, a D1 and a D-sharp 1. So my melody trigger device, which is set up here in the beginning, is exactly doing that, but actually in a very different way. So let's create some 5th sequence here, and just to show you how this could work actually as well. So I said C1, C-sharp 1, D1 and D-sharp 1. Let's set this down to 4, and this would be actually it. So I need to switch off one thing, which I'm going to show you after I showed you what's happening here. So I'm setting just in those notes. If I have the track armed. Wrong track. I want this track. So it's much too loud. I have to turn this down, and I'm using my computer here, computer volume. So nice. Okay, so I'm actually just sending in a C1, or I'm sending in a trigger note from here, which is an A1, and this is synced here. So I can sync this again. A1 is coming in and is triggering those 4 notes here now. And those 4 notes are C1, C-sharp 1, D1 and D-sharp 1, which are actually triggering those samples which are sitting here inside the drum rack. Yeah, so it's a little bit not only for beginners here, but I think if you follow the steps, it's like understandable what I'm doing here. So I'm triggering those 4 samples via 4 different notes, and those 4 different notes are getting produced by my main device I'm talking about here, the melody trigger. So this is, so you get the picture. Every hit is triggering the next step in the sequence, yeah? I set it up different here because we will come to this in a second, because the bass needed some sort of different orientation here. And this will show you another technique which is important to know. Okay, so let's have a look on the bass line here, which is being triggered by my kick pedal. So it's a C1 coming in here. So on the same time I'm triggering drum sounds with my kick pedal, I can trigger a melody here. Yeah, so I have those notes in here, which are going into the analog bass, which is a simpler device as well. Okay, so this is stock presets, so you should have those on, if you have the Ableton Live suite, you're gonna have those instruments in your Ableton Live suite. So, but you can put in another instrument here. If you want another bass sound, just go for it. Nice one. So I have this melody being triggered now. Let's switch off the drum sounds for a sec. So yeah, those notes here I put in. And I have a second sequence, third sequence, and fourth. Yeah, so this was happening as well, like writing those in MIDI clips first on my e-piano. So if I'm just playing those, different melody here, but this was the initial melody, and then I had those in different chord setting. And what is really nice with my device, you can select notes. You go to my device and you say, well, I want to create a new sequence. I'm gonna go to sequence 5 here and just say, please import those notes. If they are still selected, and they are, you know, so now, and I have 2 more notes here. So if I put this down, so I'm now having those notes. Yeah, I just triggered those via this trigger button here. So you get the picture. If you have stuff in MIDI clips already, it's really quick and easy to import those into the melody trigger device. Nice one. So we want to get rid of the 5th sequence here and just shrink it down again to 4 sequences. So I now have those 4 bass lines here for the different chords, the different 4 bars, you could say so. So I need another pad to actually trigger the change going to the next sequence, and this is done with the same pad which is playing the chords. So this way I only use one pad triggering the chords and switching everything to the next scene here. So if I go back to the chords here and I have to switch on going to the next scene via the same note, A1, same pad, from the same sequence here, and the sequence needs to be 4 as well. And in those 4 sequences I have different notes, and they are changing and playing the note on the same time when the arming is switched to on. D1, 3rd, 4th the sequence, yeah? So this triggering here, going to the next sequence, and triggering a step is both set to the same note. So this way, one pad is triggering a note and is going to the next sequence. Very important here, if you want to have the sequence to change first and then play a note from the newly selected sequence, which in my case I want to do here, you need to prioritize the sequence change over the note trigger, which is this button here, prioritize, yeah? Okay, the same works for this sequence here. So if I'm hitting the chords now, I'm gonna set the volume of the chords down a little bit. and nothing's happening. Interesting. Okay, so no MIDI note is coming in here. I don't get any MIDI note in here because my track isn't armed. I should set those two in, but then it doesn't show me. The changing is just different. Okay, obviously I need to set the arming on, and now I'm changing the sequences for the bass line here as well. Yeah, you can see this and you can hear this, that you have different notes. So one more thing here, because I'm now changing with this hit two sequence changes for melody triggers. I'm controlling two devices here on the same time, which is great. But the problem is as well, if this sequence here is, or this melody trigger is on sequence number 1, and the chord is on sequence number 2, when I'm hitting here, I'm now on number 3, and this one is on number 2. So I need to make sure that they're both set to the right starting point, and this is where sequence and selection start on load comes into place. So you can put in here values on which sequence and which step the device should be loaded to when you're opening your Ableton Live set. Plus you can have those F buttons here, which is firing exactly this point. So I have to do this in here, and I have to do this in here, and now they are set to the same point where I want them to start to. Wrong pad. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, and the same goes for the bass sequence, for the different bass sequence. I'm there now on 4 as well. Okay, so let's switch off this MIDI clip here. I just have those notes in here just to show you, like, actually this is my way of composing stuff. So now we are actually able to play a little bit, or you are actually able to play already. If you get this file, this is included in the Melody Trigger version 1 pack, you could say so, where you get like this device, 2 other devices, and those example sets I'm just showing you now. Cool, so that's gonna get funny because I haven't been drumming for quite some time. Well, I have been a little bit, but not like I've been programming this thing so much. So actually, this is funny now to find a good way to do this. So the chords. I have the drums not turned on properly. Arming again. Okay, easy steps. So we could play a beat. And this is how you can play this. Actually, this example set, and it will give you some idea of how to, and this is one step further than in the first example set, actually using one pad, one MIDI note to change multiple melody triggers devices. Yeah, obviously you can go much deeper here, but this is just for showing you like your first steps, and the example sets are gonna get more into complex setups, step by step. Okay, so yeah, please share this video if you got the need for some online training. Get in touch with me. I do online teaching, and I can set you up real quick, and you're gonna save some time here as well, and you're gonna get some insights about like how to set up things right, that you're able to use those in a bigger set later on in Ableton Live, obviously, as well. Okay, cool, bye.